Sam, good morning. Excited to have us back again for another Forage Friday. Because of our schedule, we were recording this and then we will put it out on Friday. We're both had other things going on Friday, so we couldn't go live this time. But, for some of the things that have happened in the last couple of weeks, it really made me think about what we do, why we do it. And I've just spent a lot of time focusing on that. Sam, the forage industry, the beef industry is, I'm not going to speak for you. I think I probably could. But it's more of our passion. I mean, yes, we both work for Barenbrug, and our mission is to sell pounds as far as Barenbrug's concerned. But I feel that there's a higher calling in being a small part of putting food on America's plates, on the plates of the world. Helping cattle producers, hay producers produce more yield, helping cattle producers put more gains of beef on, or increase their daily gains to help them be more profitable, especially in the time that we're in, where we've had, we're losing millions of acres every year. We've lost a lot of cattle numbers. We're at historic lows now. And then with the news of the New World screwworm, now 70 miles off of our border, there's not going to be any cattle coming in from south of the border for, some are saying, several years. So it's more important today that we do a good job of what we do. And I know for you and I, it's more than just a job. It's a calling, and it's a passion, and it's a way to give back to our world.
Most definitely. Totally agree with everything you said. It has been a passion of mine since I entered high school in my first vocational agriculture class, and I joined at the time, the Future Farmers of America. And I grew up on a small family farm in North Carolina, and the FFA ignited a passion within me. And I graduated, telling my age, but I graduated NC State in 1983 with my bachelor's degree. And since then, I have continuously served some role in the field of agriculture because it is a part of my passion. And we stop and we look at these low cattle numbers, Jeff, and I've heard discussion about the fact that corn prices today are the same as they were back in the 1970s, and that is a shame. However, the other side of that coin is we look at how yields per acre have increased since then by new hybrids, new varieties, better farming techniques. And so we're raising our yield per acre has shot up drastically since the 1970s. However, I unfortunately, as my travels around and I'm talking to cattle producers, most of their mindset is grass is something that just happens. It grows, and we use our cattle to graze it. However, most don't put the importance of improved varieties, using different varieties, different species of grasses on their farm to maximize production. And so that is part of our mission to get people to understand that we can graze more pounds of cows on less acres if we focus on our grasses just like we would a corn crop or a soybean crop or a cotton crop, looking at genetics of the grass and its yield potential.
Well, you're absolutely right, and that brings me to something that I've I really wanted to talk a little bit about, and we won't spend much time on it because our time is limited. But this regenerative ag movement that we've seen lately, where, you know, and it swings from very far one direction to very far the other direction in what people refer to or what they think regenerative ag is, where to the point where there's a lot of people that truly believe letting their pastures go, letting their native grass go, and whatever Mother Nature intends to be there, let it be. You know, it really concerns me. We've already lost so many acres of production. It concerns me in, you know, what our, I'm trying to find a better way to put this. It really concerns me in what our animal units are, our stocking rates are going to be in the future with those folks, to the point that a lot of people don't believe in using fertilization. You know, as a plant grows, it's taking nutrients from the soil to grow and produce that yield. But how do we get those nutrients back in the soil? Well, a lot of people are saying, well, it comes back in the manure, but the cow or the animal that's taking in that plant is going to it's going to absorb a certain percent of that nutrient, and it's not going back onto the property. It's going into the muscle of that animal that's going to create the meat. So that nutrients that we lose, where's it going to come from if we're not fertilizing? How do we keep weeds out of our pastures? How do we keep you know, cedar trees from spreading? How do we keep that from happening without man intervening? And that's a big problem. Now, at the same time, I'm going to say that there's some concepts within regenerative ag that I truly believe in. Rotational grazing, rest, allowing it to recover, the grass to recover and allowing it to rest. I truly believe in. What do you think, Sam? What's your thoughts? What's your opinions?
Well, Jeff, as you know, I'm a storyteller, and I have lots of stories to tell, and I'll try to make it as brief as possible. But part of my passion for agriculture comes from my grandfather. I'm actually named after him. This would have been my maternal grandfather. Actually live on a road named after him. And I used to sit at his feet and ask questions all the time. And where I live in North Carolina, we're rolling red clay hills, and they used to grow a lot of cotton and corn and even some tobacco on our side of the county. Things that didn't hold the soil in place very well. They didn't know about fertilization. They didn't understand liming concept, adjusting pH. And my grandfather told me that in the 30s and 40s that where I live was it was washing away. It's coming like a red gully. Well, then in where I live is where the vertically integrated poultry industry began. And people began to raise chickens and found out that if you put chicken litter in soil, and here's the thing about chicken manure, chicken litter, is because you feed calcium to the chickens, chicken litter itself has a liming effect. But if somebody may look this up online and correct me, but what I remember from college was the chicken's digestive system only utilizes about 30% of the nutrients that it intakes. And so about 70% of those nutrients are coming out in manure. So chicken litter is a very good manure fertilizer source. And so we found out putting this chicken litter on red clay soil, it would grow grass. And then the wonder grass, Kentucky 31 fescue, came in. Well, then from there, we had to have something to eat the grass. It protected the soil. It kept it from washing away. And the cattle industry got going in my county in North Carolina. And to this day, even though we're sandwiched between two major metropolitan areas, we still are one of the largest cattle producing counties in the state of North Carolina. So you see the effect from that. Now, the ruminant digestive system is one of the most efficient digestive system, and it can remove up to, I've been told, somewhere between 50 and 70% of the nutrients that animal eats. So cow manure is not putting nearly as many nutrients back in the soil as, say, chicken litter will. And here's the other thing about native grasses, and I may upset some folks when I say this, but all plants have hybridized itself over time. The watermelon originated in Africa, and the original watermelon had very little flesh and huge seed in it. I've actually been in the Caribbean before and seen a unhybridized banana, and you would have to eat it like a seeded grape. You eat the flesh and spit the seed out, because the seed of an old-timey unhybridized banana is so large you can't eat them. And so throughout history, we have hybridized and improved plants, bringing in other genetics that benefit us, that make them more productive or make them more edible to us. And so when we say native grasses, a lot of what Barronbrook does, the basis of our breeding program, is we are taking those native grasses and we are breeding them. Now, we're not doing it in a lab, but I told someone last week that if you saw our greenhouses on our research farm, you think it was a lab. But we are not going in a petri dish and manipulating genetics, but we are doing crossbreeding programs and selecting the pollen from the plant we want. It takes a little bit longer, but we are hybridizing those plants. But the basis of our breeding program are, quote unquote, what would be native grasses. But sometimes they are native to other areas, but they work well in our areas. So that's how that tends to work, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely. I want people to realize that what we do is not necessarily detrimental to the earth, to the soils. It's our mission is it's not about what we get out of the land, it's what we leave for the next generation, to allow them to continue producing. And when it comes down to it every day, it's about leaving things better than what we found it, or improving upon how we found it. So I keep seeing this message about just let it go back to the way it was. But I also don't want to go back to the way we grazed animals in the early 1900s. I don't want to discount the hundreds of years of research and the hundreds of years of breeding and that we've done. I mean, if you want to go back to the way we found it, then let's go back to horse-drawn plows and horse-drawn hay equipment. Let's go back to that. Where's the limit, But I digress. I know we don't want to spend the whole time on the show just discussing that. One of the things that we run into in our side of the business is working through our distribution and our dealers, primarily working with end users, is understanding real value when it comes to grasses. And I've got a little neat saying here I'll put up real quick. Success in the cattle business isn't about pedigree or land passed down through generations. It's built on a mindset grounded in discipline, adaptability, and knowing how to spot real value. And it's real value that I wanted to focus on today. We get a lot of people that, whether it's Bar Optima versus Kentucky 31, or it's Jumbo versus Gulf annual ryegrass. They want to compare pricing to an improved, a newer, more improved variety to something that we were doing back in the 60s and 70s. I understand. I can go buy Gulf annual ryegrass cheaper than I can buy Jumbo today. But what is the return on investment? What is the value that it's bringing to you is something that we need to focus on. And I got a couple of slides for that. I didn't know, Sam, do you want to interject before I share those?
Go ahead.
So this first slide, hope I get these in order correctly. Now, Gulf annual ryegrass, you see at the bottom, Gulf actually in the study that was released, I believe in 1973 or 1975 by Oregon State University, Gulf annual ryegrass was the leader of all annual ryegrasses. If you look at this study from Mississippi State for 2025, this was done at Newton. You look at the average pounds per acre, the yield between Jumbo, Maximus, even Marshall compared to Gulf, and there's a substantial difference there.
Yes.
Now, it's easy to say, okay, yeah, there's a difference, but what's the value that it actually brings to you in your pocketbook to the end user? And I have another one I'll share here. If you take the yield from the Newton trial and you equivalent that to 1,000 pound round bales of hay, Jumbo produced 11.1 bales per acre, 1,000 pound bales per acre, versus Gulf produced 8.8 on average, 1,000 pound bales per acre. Then you go and sell that hay for, in Mississippi, here in Oklahoma, typically $50 a bale for 1,000 pound bale. The Jumbo brings, per acre, $555 in hay sales per acre versus Gulf is $440. Now, yeah, that's $115 difference. Okay. But doing cowboy math, that tells me to have equal value of Jumbo and Gulf, for them to be equal value at the end of the day, you can spend $115 more to plant Jumbo than you do Gulf and come out with the same money at the end of the day.
And Jeff, you related that to actual rolls of hay, but think about how many more stockers you could graze out there. Think about how many more cow-calf pairs, how that's going to increase your tonnage and decrease the amount of land, especially if you implement some rotational grazing strategies into your plan. The other beautiful thing is about, say, Jumbo is a later maturing tetraploid, and people are concerned about annual ryegrass seed for a following crop. Well, by the fact that it's a later maturing, but you start grazing at the spring, you're going to have it grazed off before it tries to go to seed, so you're not spreading those seed around. I mean, these are all things that we need to think about in a strategy. In Barenbrug, we do have our Pinpoint 300 Plus program where we are working with producers to show them how they can graze 300 days out of the year. Basically, that's 10 months of grazing. And honestly, then if you got good rotational grazing strategies and you've got a solid bar of different species of grasses growing out around your farm, and using stockpiling, you can possibly get that, depending on where you live, especially in the southern United States. Now, you could almost do 365 days of grazing a year, except in a leap year when you can do 366.
Gotta love the leap year.
Yeah.
Um,
Keeps the
and
calendar right.
That's something that in our operation at home, in the last couple of years, we have switched to the point that now we feed some hay here at the house because we have, show cattle and some registered
Right.
cattle and traps on a smaller acreage. But on our grazing pastures, we're at the point now we don't feed hay unless there's going to be snow cover. Where my neighbor across the fence, cedar trees are out of control, weeds are out of control, and he's feeding hay from now through April. He's constantly has hay out. I won't put a bale of hay out until our weathermen, whether they're right or wrong, predicts that we're going to have enough snow to cover the ground. And at the end of the day, if I can reduce, my hay usage by 75% or even 50% per year, that's money that gets to go back in my operation or gets to go into my pocket.
Exactly.
So it all goes back to finding real value,
right,
and be able to recognize real value. And that's just something that I wish the rest of our industry would focus more on. Of course, everybody says, well, when cattle prices are high, it's very easy to spend extra money to be more, profitable, to be more efficient. But I would challenge anyone that says that. I think when cattle prices are low, that's when we have to be the most efficient. We can afford screw ups today with where cattle prices are. 10 years from now, when those cattle prices aren't where they're at today, we can't afford to not be more efficient. So I would challenge everybody out there, and I'm going to try to look directly in the camera that when I say this, use the high cattle prices today, put that money back into improving your forage program so that when cattle prices do return to normal, that you're more efficient, that you can raise more pounds of beef per acre. Let's not wait till that time to make a change. Let's make that change now, and let's prepare for it. According to Dr. Peel at Oklahoma State, in inventory at the feedlot, they anticipate it declining into 2027. There's actually some rumors out there right now. I haven't seen any evidence that there may be a USDA program coming to help with herd rebuilding, to help with raising replacement heifers. So let's take the opportunity we have today and let's start preparing for that, because we're going to need it in the future. I left you speechless.
Yeah, I was just going to say we're still losing farmland right and left, and I'm not meaning to get political here, but I know that was it in Ohio? Brooke Rollins, the USDA Secretary of Ag, went and said no more prime farmland for solar development, solar energy development. So I have nothing against solar energy. However, when they eat up farmland, I mean, there are alternatives that we can look at for those sorts of things. So we've got that's part of it. Farmland protection. I spent a lot of my extension career talking about farmland protection, keeping it profitable. The part of the issue that is a whole nother long discussion is the next generation not interested in going into it. And I'm lucky, and Jeff, you're lucky. You have a son that's very interested in it. I have a daughter that embraced it. Is she actually still on the farm? No, but she's working for an ag company and ended up going all the way, getting a PhD in agriculture. And so I'm very proud of that. I often said my daughter would either run screaming away from agriculture because her mom and I both were in it. And as an extension agent, she had to go with me to so many extension meetings. It was either she was going to run screaming from it or she was going to totally embrace it. And I am so proud that she ended up totally embracing it. But that is part of our issue is the next generation. Are we going to have a next generation in agriculture that can keep our food supply that we need? And food supply is an issue of national security. Yes, the military, I honor our military and our military veterans, but also the farmers. That's how we ended up winning World War II, is because we could feed ourselves and we could feed our allies. And I go back and study history, and basically we did surround Germany and we starved them. And then we realized we couldn't starve Japan. They could survive forever off rice and fish, and they had plenty. And so food security is an issue of national security.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's going back to, circling back all the way to where we started today. We're talking about our passion. Look, the bottom line is, I hope everyone wants to buy Barronbrook products, but I also realize that everyone buying Barronbrook products is not everybody is going to buy Barronbrook product. And at the end of the day, whether you buy our product or you buy brand X, as long as you are buying something that it helps your program, increases yield, increases gain, then you're doing the right thing for our country. You're doing the right thing for the next generation.
Right
just
thing.
Walking in the store and buying something that's cheaper just because it's cheaper doesn't work. It doesn't get us where we need to be in this country. Going and buying a Yugo ain't going to help you put hay out. You got to spend the money to buy the hay truck to help you put the hay out.
But I said, not only it's going to affect your pocketbook as well. It is, the old saying goes, you got to spend some money to make some money. And that is still very true in this situation. You've got to invest. Now, I will repeat myself. I have said this so much, it's not even funny. How do you accomplish this? Well, first of all, you got to make a plan. And I'm doing a webinar later on today, and my first slide is Benjamin Franklin, old Ben Franklin. He says, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. But the thing that scares most farmers, ranchers, is it seems like it's an undaunting task. It's like huge. And this is a statement that I used to tell my daughter all the time, the one that has the PhD, is how do you eat an elephant? And that is one bite at a time. So a plan is just not for 6 months or a year. A plan may stretch out for 5 years, and it may stretch out for a decade. But what you do is you set goals of what you're going to do at a certain time. Are you going to get all those goals reached at that time? No. Let's be realistic. No. But you don't say this is set in stone. You've got to have some flexibility as you do that planning and as you start implementing. But just realize that you are working towards a goal. And like I say, taking it one step at a time will eventually get you there. It's not going to all happen overnight.
It's a business, but it's a business where we're not creating a widget. We are feeding the world, and it's a huge, huge responsibility.
It definitely is. And Jeff, if I can, I keep falling back into my old extension role when I do this. And I jokingly but seriously tell everybody that that's what I get to do for Barronbrook, is I still get to do a lot of my extension work without all the paperwork and politics. But as you said all that, and you were looking forward to down the road, making plans for your son, estate planning for farmers and ranchers, this is so critical. And because of copyright issues, we can't play this song. But if you don't understand the importance of estate for your farm, for your ranch, I would really like for you to look up this song. It's by a Canadian country music artist by the name of Corb Lund. And the name of the song is S Lazy H. And it's about a 5-minute long song. But I'll tell you what, after you listen to that song and hear his story that he tells in that, and I don't know that this happened to him, but it has happened to so many people, I think you'll be running to your attorney to make sure you get an estate plan done. And I know throughout the United States, most extension services are having conferences all the time on how to pass on to the next generation estate planning for farms. I know there's one going on in my county in the next month. And usually I hear about them about every month from another county around me. But it's easy to find some educational programs. But I just encourage everyone to make sure that you have planned for the future, for your family, or for your succession after you're no longer here. Because Jeff, you said y'all making a 40-year plan. For 40-year plan for me, I'm going to be over a century old, so I know I'm not going to be here unless the good Lord really does bless. But making sure my wife and I, we have our estate planned out, so that it makes it easy for my daughter and my granddaughter, and that is vitally important.
Yeah. I know we're running over the time that we initially set, but I want to speak to some of you out there that have inherited land. I don't know how it is in other parts of the country, but I know here at home, there's a lot of people that have inherited land where they don't live in the area. They may not even live in the state or even the region of the country that inherited that piece of property. Make sure if you inherit that piece of property and you want to hold on to that land, which is a wise move. Owning land is a great investment, but make sure that land goes used. There's so many acres here at home that have just become cedar tree forest because that land it just sits there unused, unmanaged. I drive by hundreds of acres every day of land that's just it's going to waste, and actually becoming a fire hazard for the community. It's becoming a piece of ground that's not even good for the wildlife. Make sure that you find somebody that's willing to lease that land and have a plan with them. Work together with them. Some land that we're leasing. I'm currently working with the landowner who lives in Florida on a multi-year plan of how to improve that piece of ground. I'm invested in it. They're invested in it. We're coming together, creating a plan to make sure that if there comes a day that we don't need that lease ground, that the next person that it's ready for that next person to come in and lease and graze and utilize and make that ground worth something other than, people just bulldozing it down to build homes in. So just please take those words to heart, and make sure that land remains usable, and don't just let it sit.
And down the road on a Forage Friday, we're going to have what I consider the gurus of forages on here with us. And I'm very honored to be able to call these gentlemen my friends. And so I just wanted to throw that out there. Not sure it'll happen in October, but we are going to have some very famous people in the forage industry on Forage Friday in the future.
Yeah, and I'm very excited about that. I know this is only our third episode. Our viewers are growing. We've doubled in viewers from episode 1 to 2. Hopefully it keeps growing. Hopefully everybody keeps finding value in it. We're going to bring in, like Sam said, we've got some guys that are considered basically the fathers of the forage industry that are willing to come on, that want to come on and be with us. That's going to be exciting. Lots of other exciting stuff coming around. There's a little, hopefully we get to share it on here. We'll have to clear that through corporate, but there's a pretty cool little documentary coming out. It's a short documentary about some great folks that we're working with out in the Texas Panhandle. The ranch we're working with, everybody knows. I'm not going to say anything other than that. Just leave a little teaser out there. But it's a pretty special place. And it's pretty cool stuff what they're doing with forages and grazing. But with that, we'll see you next time on Forage Friday. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, it's always a pleasure. Hey, we love this.
Say that again, Sam.
I said it's our pleasure, and we both, if you can't tell, Jeff and I both love doing this.
Absolutely, this is the best part of the month.
Yep.
And hey, if y'all go, if you'll share it and tell your friends about it, we get our followers up to a certain point. We may start putting out more Forage Fridays than once a month. We'd love it if our bosses said, "Hey, you guys are doing so good. We need you to do more of it." We'll do more. We'll get paid to sit here and talk to y'all and preach the good word about forages and beef. So, Sam, have a great one, buddy.
Yeah, everybody have a great weekend.
See you guys.
See you.